Yeah, good to go. Okay, I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Welcome to the village board meeting, 7 o'clock, Monday, June 14th, 2021. We have call order, silence all cell phones, please. Roll call of officers.
We have Pete Anzia, Glenn Godsacker, Don Dodger, Rose Sowers, Dan Wolf, and Sarah Heisler via Zoom.
Open meeting law compliance check.
Yes, we are compliant.
Can we all please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, public input, 2 minutes a person, 10 minutes total time. Anyone? Sure, no.
Looking for Tara?
Yeah.
She's not able to be here, but she gave me a report to just share that for the chamber, the next Summer Nights Live is coming up Friday, July 16th. And there'll be food sampling from local restaurants, some Coyotes, Big Dad's, Luna's, Taqueria. And there's going to be music by Grafton's Exit 92, and I think that band was featured in the Ozaki Press last week, if I recall right. And she wanted to share too that the chamber has been spearheaded a centennial committee. If you're not aware, the Belgian Centennial will be coming up. The date is October 2nd, 2022. So they have started planning for that. Just looking at things of designing a centennial logo, having some banners and flags. And the committee, will be looking to the village board to help out with some of those finances, to maybe budget for those things for 2022. And they're looking at ideas of a time capsule, historical plaques, walking tours, and there's going to be other special events with the regular events that happen in October. They're planning community Guinness Book of World Records. I guess I heard maybe moostriping, something to do with eating moostriping, to get in the Guinness Book of World Records. So we'll see what comes of that. But and that's all that you have.
Okay. We'll move on to number 7, the consent agenda items. We'll need to approve minutes from the village board, April 20th, 2021, and the village board, May 10th, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 7C, accept monthly board reports. Motion, we accept the monthly board reports.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll go on to unfinished business, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding 8A, approved request of waiver of park user agreement for Luxembourg Fest.
I'll take the lead, Pete, on that.
Okay.
I was contacted a couple of weeks ago by attorney Jim Birnbaum, who happens to be here tonight, who's a longtime member of the LACS and also does work on their behalf, inquiring whether the board would entertain waiving the park user agreement for LACS. I asked him to send me a letter, which I received the other day, and you should all have in your packet. Not necessarily put words in Jim's mouth, but I think the gist of the argument was LACS took this over when the original Luxembourg committee, whatever that consisted of, Peanuts and Rich Iseling and a few people kind of handed it off. But it's kind of a group effort. The Legion's involved, the Lions are involved, the community club when it existed was involved. And they are reluctant to just sign a park user agreement on their behalf and assume any liability when it isn't just them. So they're asking that they not be required to sign the park user agreement. That, Jim, does that fairly state
Yes.
your position? Okay.
Jerry, do you have any opinion on that?
Well, in a perfect world, we get somebody to sign it, but I can understand their position that it isn't just us, you know, that they don't want to undertake liability when there's all these other entities involved. Do we have events there where we don't get a, I mean, I understand when you have family functions, family reunions, things like that, we gotta get this, okay? But for civic groups, does the Legion sign one for the cornrows,
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day? Yeah.
Memorial Day, no, you know, and then that's one of those things that it's an event that just always happens.
Right.
And, you know, the user agreement, I mean, we kind of use it in the office as just a documentation of an event too. So it's kind of used as a tool, a communication tool. So that's more of why the LACS was requested that they fill it out just as a communication tool, not as a, you know, sign off on liability. But yeah, I mean, we don't have every single,
In years past, did they sign them?
um,
I mean, they've been running it now for 5, 6, 7
right,
years.
right, and maybe they did last year, I can't
I
remember.
believe they did last year.
Yeah, and there's
But
no
that
fee,
was
there's
pretty
no
new.
fee, right, and there's no fee involved for all nonprofits.
So what is
That's a
the
good question.
objection to signing it? That's, I'm asking you, what is the objection?
What would be the objection?
Yes,
It'd be the liability.
well, you have signed it in years past.
Right, we've talked about that, and I've been on the board of directors for a number of years. I've never seen the document.
The addendum, yes, the
Yes.
addendum is new, and that is, I think, what the issue was, is that addendum that was added last year. And now, Luxembourg Fest didn't take place last year, but the year before.
And see, I can probably tell you, and I think Jerry's done a good job of that, but basically, if you take a look at what's called the indemnity provision, it's on paragraph 4 of the original agreement, and then it is on several pages of the revised addendum. And what it does is it asks the LACS to assume liability for the village and assume liability virtually for everyone else who's involved in the program, because everyone else is defined in here as village officers, employees, and agents, and guests, and invitees. And as you know, invitees is everybody who shows up here, and all of these are not under our control. And so for us to accept liability in the event something happens, we would be the ones that would have to, as I say, foot the bill. And I don't understand why it was probably signed before, because it should have been reviewed by council. I should have seen it, but I did not see it before. And so all we're asking for is basically not to be asked to really undersign and endorse people that we don't know, or we don't have any reason for how we would control that.
Jerry, in the event, I'm sorry for.
No, go ahead.
Jerry, in the event, God forbid, that some actionable circumstance should occur at the event, does the liability in the absence of a signed statement fall back on the village, or how does that work?
Well, if somebody gets hurt, they're gonna sue anybody and everybody they can. Okay? That would include the village, that would include LACS, it will include the fire department or the Legion or the Lions, whoever might be in any way associated with whatever happened. That's just how it works. Okay, then the parties who are sued look at each other and point fingers and say, it's not me, it's you. The village has limited immunity when it comes to recreational events. Okay, so we have some protection, actually. And the village itself is not a sponsor of it. I don't think we are. Maybe we are. They sponsor this event. Okay, so,
Well, actually, based on what I've heard and the fact that LACS has always been a big supporter for the community, and the fact that this has been kind of topsy-turvy as to whether these things get signed, and we all know when the Luxembourg Fest is happening, I myself move to approve the request of waiver for the user agreement.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this?
I just would like to throw a comment out there that it might be something that the board wants to talk through, because I'm not sure if we're getting it for Summer Nights Live right now, but that is also technically not a village event, it's a Chamber of Commerce event. And I believe Tara, has been a part of these discussions. So it may be something the board needs to look at for other community type events going forward at a future meeting or something.
maybe your public safety committee looks at it. It might be worthwhile to put in a call to the village's insurer and ask what they would recommend, if we seek that kind of agreement from the users. Go ahead.
On that same note, Vicki, as long as you brought it up, does the chamber sign a park waiver at all or not? When they did their park things?
I believe that they have in the past, but when this issue came up, I believe Tara was considering signing for LACS, and that's when this all started. So, she's been made aware of what her signing is putting the burden on either the chamber or on herself personally for liability also. So I'm just saying that this could very well be an issue that we have to look at in other events also.
Okay, well, the reason I would think that the chamber-sponsored events might be a little bit different is because that is a chamber event as opposed to, like they're saying, LACS and other events, Lions, other groups, it's the group.
Right, although the chamber does partner with the fire department and the Legion and the village and other entities for Summer Nights Live also. Those charities is often involved, the Boy Scouts have been involved, so there's a lot of other community groups that work together for that event also.
This agreement does several things, and again, I think it's more important that we get it from the family situation more so. All these organizations we talk about have, I presume, liability insurance. Okay, LACS, I presume, does, Jim.
Yes.
The fire department certainly does.
The Legion.
I think the Legion probably does.
Yeah, they do.
The village has a liability policy. Plus, again, we have the recreational immunity statute. So there are certain protections. This agreement does more than the liability issue. Again, as Julie said, we want to know who's using it. If something gets damaged, they're responsible for fixing it. They're supposed to clean up afterward. I think the village undertakes that for Luxembourg Fest, right? The cleaning up afterward.
Yeah.
So seems to me the difference here is this is kind of like a group effort, the Luxembourg Fest and Memorial Day and a couple of those corn roast are broader functions with entities that have some protection. If somebody does get hurt, they've got liability insurance to look out for those people.
Well, would having to sign the document be a deal breaker for LACS?
As the lawyer representing, I would have to discourage them from doing so, simply because of the exposure. So, for example, the way it's written, let's just say that the village, you have swing sets and you have all kinds of equipment out there. If one of the workers who works on that equipment fails to install it properly and a child falls off and breaks their leg, we would be responsible under this agreement, even though we have nothing to do with it. Or if anyone else, if somebody who provides the food, for example, gets some bad food and poisons somebody. We would then be responsible because we're taking on the responsibility literally of every liability of the village, every liability of everyone who participates, including all of the ones who come and enjoy it, like me. And so that's why it would be a huge problem that we would not be able to explain to the board how we would undertake that risk. Because as Jerry said, we're insured, like I hope everybody else is that's here, and that's not a question. But on the other hand, we're not insured to cover the world. And that's literally what the current agreement says, is that we would be indemnifying everyone.
Who authored the agreement?
I'm sure I did.
A lot of this changed with the addition of the addendum last year for COVID, and I believe that was a whole new realm of legal area that Jerry had to come up with, and I'm sure you used something that you found from other.
I probably stole it from somebody else, I'm
Right.
sure.
So, the world has changed a lot.
Well,
So perhaps we should
Well,
maybe
I,
think about retooling this
And this-
For
yeah, this can certainly go
large
to me.
events.
yeah, I was just gonna say, you've got at least 2 members of the, safety committee right here. Interesting enough, the one that made the motion and seconded it, so, but yeah, I'd be fine with it going to public safety committee for discussion.
To reevaluate the form, but the motion, the agenda item though, needs to be addressed. I think that's a different. we
Yeah,
talked
it is,
about
and we already have a
different things.
motion and a second on the floor, so that's where you're at. Now, for LACS is asking that they not be required to sign this agreement for this year's Luxembourg Fest. That's the question before you tonight.
Okay, then my motion still stands.
My second still stands.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Sarah, can you unmute yourself and just give us a verbal on that
Is that
one
better?
more time?
Or give a
Can you hear me
thumbs up.
now?
I was gonna, yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down.
We couldn't hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear us,
I'm
Sarah?
I'm listening to all you.
We can't hear
No.
that. The
I
lips are
don't read, I
moving.
don't read lips.
Sarah, give us a thumbs up if you agree or thumbs down if you don't.
Oh.
Thumbs up.
I guess that's enough.
Okay.
Sorry, Sarah, I had the volume, the sound on the speaker, so we should be able to hear you now.
Okay,
Okay, motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to 9A. Approve release of property damage claim documents in regards to insurance claim filed August 2020 for damaged light pole. That,
Want to explain that, Dave?
This is just a procedural thing. I mean, it happened in 2020. The village received payment for the damages from the insurance company, but this is just a document that the insurance company is asking that the village sign. And that's why it's before the board.
Basically, well, it's with any insurance settlement, in return for the money, they want to release it where you promise not to make any further claims regarding whatever incident that was.
Where was this light pole?
They put a global mark, one of the new ones. One of the new ones.
One of the new ones in the mobile?
new ones?
Okay.
And the amount that they are offering covers everything, there's no.
Yeah, they do.
Less the deductible.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I move to approve release of property damage claim documents in regard to the insurance claim filed August 2020 for damaged light pole.
Second.
motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 9B, approve liquor license renewals for Belgium Fire Department Class B beer. Belgium Plaza Class A liquor and beer. Spiegler Farms Class B liquor and beer. Curved Brim, which is Coyotes Class B liquor and beer. Luna's,
Taqueria.
okay. LLC Class B liquor and beer. Trackside Pub Class B liquor and beer.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. 9C, approved new liquor license for Luxembourg Cafe Class B liquor and beer.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. 9D, approved cigarette and tobacco license renewal, Howdy Service Center, Belgium Plaza.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 9E, approve new operator license. Courtney Borden, Karen Halman, Jason Schenker, Nathan Warner, Christopher Kent, Hannelore Brun, Carrie Kraus, Dana Waters, Vanessa Warner. These have all passed the background checks, right?
Yes, I did. Do a background check on all
Move to
of them.
approve.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 9F, authorization to request funding under the American Rescue Plan Act, Local Fiscal Recovery Fund.
This is the funding, the COVID funding from the federal government. We have to file this form, and there's some documents which were included in the packet that need signing by the village president. So it just is, a formal action that needs to be taken so that I can file it by this Friday. And we're expected to receive $245,000.
So we're getting a kind of a kickback. We're getting 245.
Yes.
So you need an actual motion to authorize?
Yes.
I move to authorize the requested funding under the American Rescue Plan Act.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. 9G, introduce and approve resolution 14-21, compliance maintenance annual report.
I don't really have a final version of the resolution. And Paul, is it exactly the same as last year?
Yeah, it's
There's
exactly the
there
same.
isn't
You just-
anything updated?
The only thing that's updated is my comments. That was different from last year. Other than that, everything is exactly the same.
Well, the financial section is updated to reflect.
Yeah, you're right, sorry.
So
This is something that has to be done every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the items listed in section 2 of the resolution that typically is, it lists the actions necessary to maintain the requirements. Nothing's changed from
Nothing's
last year.
changed.
Okay, so it'll be exactly the same as last year. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's what I wasn't sure about. That's why I didn't provide an actual copy of that, but if it is the same as last year, then that's the version that will go with.
Oh. So we're,
So
you ready?
we'll an introduction and
You gotta introduce it first, right? I want to introduce resolution 1421, compliance maintenance annual report.
Second.
Approved.
I move to approve.
Approved next. first introduced and then approved.
Okay, so Clem introduced, Rose moved, Don seconded.
Okay.
Okay, motions are made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 9H, approve over budget spending for replacement and upgrade of gate access controller unit for the recycle center gate. I got one question on this. Why is the recycling not have its own fund, that it's self-sufficient with the cards and all that? Can we do that? Because right now, everything, all them cards go into general, right?
Yeah, the board has never asked for it to be segregated. I can tell you every year how much money we collect and how much we spend, but that goes, the money collected from the cards goes for supplies, and it also goes to pay toward the cost of the recycling center. And the amount we collect from the cards is not enough to completely cover the costs of that recycling center. It covers about half of it. So,
So that's,
there's no way, aside from us creating a separate legal fund, for us to record it completely separate.
so it's not self-sufficient.
It is not. And however, we went from funding it 100% to now funding about 50% of it only. So it is considerably offsetting the cost.
But then there's still taxpayers paying for it, they don't get to use it.
That's by choice.
Well,
That's
it's
by
not
choice. You don't buy a card, you don't get to use it.
But we have to pay for it.
Okay, you gotta pay for the guys that cut the grass in the village. It's just one of those things, you know.
Taxes paid for baseball fields and playgrounds, even if you don't have kids or people who use them, so.
Yeah.
It's pretty reasonable, $20 a year. That's very reasonable.
But
What, I got the question, can you tell me what did happen that it broke down?
The main reader went out, so we had to put in one that reads the cards.
Put the new
Open
reader?
gate.
Yeah.
That went out, he tried repairing it, it just didn't work, so we ordered a new one. That you can look in the older.
How much are those?
Yeah, we
It
can
will
look
be
at
an
it in the shop.
upgrade. This will also be an upgrade.
Oh,
So
the old one.
$28.90.
it's about 10
28
years that we've had
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty close to 10 years.
So it's not really bad.
And we were
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah,
yes,
3,000
because
bucks.
when the repairman was here initially, he thought he did a fix. And he told me, in fact, but you're probably gonna look at an upgrade. So I just told him, send me some numbers, we'll budget for it. Well, the fix didn't work, so he came back so that's why we did do the fix right
Dan,
now.
will the old cards work with the new readers? Okay.
We had a problem last year already.
So it's end of life.
So the over budget amount is $2,890. Now,
Pete, I have a question for Dan.
now coming out of that also, now we have a deductible for hopper in the back too, huh?
Well, see what it comes to.
Yeah, because we had a fire in the back of one of the garbage dumpsters. And that burned all the paint off and got problems with the dumpsters now, so we have to make that good too.
Pete.
Yeah, but we gotta pay a deductible.
Can you hear me,
$1,000,
Pete?
What?
I think it'll be $1,000 deductible.
So,
These things happen,
okay. I'll make a motion, we approve the budget spending for replacement upgrade on the gate access controller unit for the recycle center gate.
I'll second.
Motions are made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
huh?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 9I, approve revised subdividers agreement for New Luxembourg third edition as requested by Ansay Development.
Ian, or you want me to kind of lay the groundwork for it?
I'm happy to kind of lay the groundwork of it. We've got pretty substantial amount of progress on the road, sorry, I'm leading things to development, on the road to the north. And we're simply waiting on kind of high level pictures, street lighting, sidewalks, street trees, and some signage. All those things are in process, and considering that if we wait for all those items to be in place, then we won't get a first home completed till October if we're lucky, but there's a whole season of building and selling. What we propose to do is essentially ask for an early start permit with the conditions that we don't get any occupancy until we fully complete our obligations for the redevelopment agreement. And then the second part of it is we'd love to build sidewalks per house as we go instead of pouring all the sidewalks with the risk of damaging them as we build the homes. And what we have in there is, and what I've sent through, and I'm not sure, Jerry, your comments in the group, but as a blank, so we could determine as a group. In my head, it'd be great to be 3 years or 2 years, where we say there's a sunset date, any sidewalk is not yet installed, we owe the village, we have to install. And we'll have a letter of credit for any of those outstanding items, which we have in place now. We just need to share with the village if we execute this tonight. So with that said, we'd love to start going on the homes, so ready to go. We'd love to hear your consideration on it tonight.
So are all the, what do you want to call it? Everything was in place for the second part of it? I mean, we're good to go up
All the
until,
utilities are in, the final list of asphalt is, storm sewer laterals, everything is in, except the regular you were talking about.
So we're missing, if I get this right, the finish lift is in already? or-
Yeah, final lift.
Okay, so we're talking sidewalks, street trees, street signs, street lamps?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, stop sign. that little trees.
Yeah, street signs, right, okay. So, what the subdivision agreement says is no building permits until everything is in except the finished course of asphalt, which is already in, sidewalks, street trees, and we get a letter of credit for what's not in. So they're basically offering now to do what the agreement says. The agreement also calls for the final plat to have been approved, and I know that's not been done, but we have the preliminary plat approved. They're working on getting the final plat approved. They can't sell a lot until the final plat is approved.
Correct.
So I don't see a lot of risk to the village in doing this. I don't know how Danny feels about the sidewalks. I'll tell you, having been the village attorney for 35 years, we had some meetings where they spent an hour, literally or more, talking about what the sidewalk policy should be, by lot or the whole subdivision. And there's no right answer to that question. I don't even know what our policy is anymore.
Well, you could either put them all in now, or, I mean, the other subdivisions we were doing now, we were doing like in Heritage Park subdivision. The sidewalks were doing when the house was built, and then after so many years, if it wasn't 3/4 full or whatever, the developer had to put all the sidewalks in, so.
Right.
So as long as we have a letter of credit to cover what isn't done, and the big things are done, by the way. Have you inspected all that, Danny?
Yeah, I did, well, we had the inspector out here when they were doing the utilities installation, and I did the compaction test before the basement on there and before they did the asphalt and everything was fine.
Okay.
The only thing I had one question is, I don't know if it's in the developer's agreement about the grading of the lots, if they're up to grade. I mean, we had that one problem. I thought there was supposed to be in there.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's how we used to do it. They had to be all graded.
Yeah, because we ran into a problem in the subdivision where none of the lots were graded and they all turned into ponds.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, actually, that's what it says. The subdivider is supposed to,
Wasn't that up in Ardens too?
No, it was in Maple Lawn.
has to complete rough grading
I had problems.
of a 12-foot wide strip on all lot lines to within plus or minus 3 inches of finished grade, which is what you.
Yeah,
Has that been
that'd
done?
be some, I don't know if it's been done or not, Jerry, 100% honestly. That'd be something we'd be happy to do. I'd rather have a nice looking subdivision than a bunch of ponds for the next 2 years with their name on it. So I'd be happy to amend that.
So we have lots of, they're pretty close, right?
Let's, okay, as long as Danny brought that up, let's make sure that's in there too.
That makes sense.
But again, as long as we have a letter of credit for what isn't done, and it's the little stuff that isn't done.
Yeah.
Final plat's going to get done, we know that, because they can't sell a lot without it. So as long as we have the letter of credit and they know that they're not gonna get an occupancy permit until the stuff is all taken care of. I don't see any downside to it.
Jerry, sorry, to cut you off. We project somewhere around 2-ish years to move through most of the subdivision. So with that said, a little bit of fluff, we would propose that, say, in the summer, 3 years from now, whatever sidewalks aren't completed, we would install. And so we actually left the date blank on what we sent through from our proposal. But that's what we would recommend. Give us a chance to get everything done on a normal selling time and give you guys a date that protects your interest as well.
I move to approve the revised subdividers agreement for the new Luxembourg third edition pending the addition of grading to the letter of credit.
Second. So I just want to make sure I understand, when the legal side of this, to the addition of the letter of credit, fine, if I execute it, it doesn't go in the letter of credit, right? So if we're already there, I guess the reason I'm questioning, I'm not 100% sure.
If you've done it, we don't need it. Right.
Okay.
If you haven't done it, then we want money set aside to make sure.
I just want to make sure the grading gets done, bottom line.
Makes sense to
so.
me.
You don't want ponds out there anyway.
Oh, I can tell you that
Bad
that happens. I'll
advertising.
get lots of phone calls from my team too. We're on the same page.
Pending would imply that it's never going to rain again.
Unless you get a beachfront.
Okay, motions are made and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Give me a new draft.
9J, introduce and approve resolution 15-21 to reimburse from proceeds of borrowing for storm sewer and street portion of planned capital project for 2022.
So this is just standard. We have started incurring costs for the street and stormwater portion, which is scheduled to be done next year. So we want to have a resolution in place to assure that when we take a loan, we can repay those expenses.
All right, I will introduce resolution 15-21 to reimburse from proceeds of our infrastructure sewer and street portion of planned capital project for 2022.
Second.
I move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve. Maybe second.
Sorry.
Motion's been introduced and approved for resolution 1521 and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 9K.
Go ahead.
Approve appointment for village trustee vacancy. Josh Borden has resigned as of last Tuesday or Wednesday. And we have a volunteer, Roseanne Geib, right in the middle, front and center. I make a motion, we approve.
Don't you ask for more people? Because I volunteered too.
I
I ran for election.
Did you put in an application?
I didn't even know it was, so I seen it on the agenda today.
It was on the website, it was on the Facebook, it was all over.
Was it in the paper?
I don't know.
No, we don't have an opportunity.
No, I know, it's just news articles.
But you can certainly put in your interest and the more than.
Cheer up, Jeff. My spot's gonna be open next year.
I know of several other people, actually two other people that would like to do this also, and
But they had to put in a letter of interest.
That's right.
I mean, it was on the website, it was on
Okay, whatever.
Facebook.
That's what you gotta do.
If this is the way we're gonna do it, fine.
We got somebody that stepped forward, we gotta let them take a chance at it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Or, go ahead.
So I made a motion to approve Roseanne Geib.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Well, I'd kind of like to hear from Roseanne, maybe a little bit about
Myself as
her.
well.
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't talk her out of it.
What would you like to know?
Well, first of all, we've got to keep Rose at Roseanne's.
Right.
No, just what your general interests are, what you see as, you know, major topics for the
I
village.
think, well, I lived in the village for almost 20 years. I think we moved in 2002 when we moved here. So I think just being part of the village, just having an interest in what happens here. So I feel that I could be of at least some help or, you know, advice maybe from a different perspective of, you know, families that move here, et cetera. So
Well, thanks for applying.
you're welcome.
before you call the vote, Wisconsin law requires that there be 4 affirmative votes to appoint someone to fill a vacancy, so just so you know how many you need.
Okay, just gotta go by eyes.
I'd poll.
Oh,
Dan,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Clem?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, unanimous.
Sarah.
Sarah?
Sarah? No voice recognition there.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome,
Oh, there she is.
welcome aboard, Rosie.
Motion to adjourn.
You can just get a hold of Julie and she'll set you up with everything.
Okay.
She's back.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made, second to adjourn. Any other questions?
I guess I do have one. Now, is she going to be on the committees that Josh was on, or
Yeah, I gotta look that one over yet, but I think she's on
she's on mine?
Parks and Rec
Yeah.
and,
Personnel, yeah.
no, she's not on personnel. Dan took over his file.
Should be on Public Works, right? I think Josh was on Public Works.
Josh, actually, I think he's only on Park and Rec now
Yes.
after this last April.
Oh, that's right. He dropped out of Public Works.
Whatever. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Longer meeting Thursday night.
Yeah.
Usually,